Alrighty, let's start to code out our backend using NestJS, GraphQL, Prisma and Postgres. First things first, let's create a new NestJS application by writing nest new, and then we give it a name of backend shop YouTube, for example. Hit enter. Then I choose npm because it's my personal preference. Hit enter. And now let's cd into our directory here. And then we type code empty space dot and hit enter. This will bring up Visual Studio Code, and we are already in the right directory and we can start to code. In our project, we will make use of a Postgres database, and in order to be able to use a Postgres database, we can create here a file called docker-compose.yaml. And in it, we need to write a few lines. I will paste some stuff in. It's not much. Yeah, so basically we have a service here called db, and we will make use of Postgres. And then we can name our database, for example, shop YouTube. Name is not so important, but we need this name. And then also our Postgres user can stay root and password can stay 123. And with this file here, we can easily spin up an instance of a Postgres database, and then we can store our products for our online store in this database. And yeah, how this goes, you will see in a bit. So yeah, bear with me. And that's all we needed to do here. We can close this file. Next, let's install Prisma, and we use Prisma to talk to our Postgres database. We grab this line here to install it. Then we use this line here, npx prisma init. And this will create a Prisma folder here with a schema.prisma file in it. And here we see by default it uses Postgres, which is correct. And then also here's a URL. And it points to an environment variable called database URL. And we also see we have an .env file here. And if we go in it, we see this database URL variable here. And here we need to change a few things. John Doe is not correct. Our user was named root, right? If we go back here, we can see it. And I just copy this shop_YouTube name here. And then as database name, I just paste it in, shop_YouTube. And then the password was 123. And it's important to leave the colon here between the user and the password, otherwise it would not work. And we can save it and close this file. Now let's go to schema.prisma, and here we can define how our database tables should look like. And we do it via model. And now we can provide a name. And we name it product. And now we need to provide some properties. I just will copy them and paste them in here. Yeah, so basically we have an ID, which is a primary key by default because we use this auto increment here. And yeah, then also we have a name, price, and so on. And then also created at and updated at will be auto generated. That's all we need to do here. And as I said, this here will mirror how our database tables would look like. At the moment, we do not have any tables in our database. But after running the migrate command, I will show you in a bit, then we will have a table called product, and in it we will have columns with the name of ID, name, price, and so on. Okay, that's all we needed to do in the schema.prisma file. We can close it. Now let's create a service, and we can name it Prisma. So we can type nest G for generate, service, and then Prisma. And here under source Prisma, you find our prisma.service. And here we need to paste some stuff in. And I will show you where you can find it. Yeah, you can find it here again on the official docs for Nest.js in the Prisma category. And you have this thing here. And you just can copy all of this. And then you can paste it in here. In this prisma.service.ts file. And again, you can close it. We are done with this file. Okay, now we can set up GraphQL for Nest.js. We can go back here to the Nest.js docs and we can search for GraphQL. And then we grab this line to install all the required dependencies. Then let's also install another dependency, and it's called @nestjs/config npm I, and then @nestjs/config, and this will help us to access our environment variables. Now we can go to our app.module.ts, and here in this imports array we can make use of GraphQL module. And it would not auto import, so I have to import it manually. Here it is. And now we can say here GraphQL, and then we say for root async, and then we have to provide an object here. Here we have to provide a driver. We use the Apollo driver, which we also have to import from Nest.js Apollo driver. And the reason why we use for root async here is because now we can use factory here. And then here we can provide config : and it's of type config service, which comes from @nestjs/config. And pardon, this use factory is a arrow function. So here after use factory we have to provide a : and then here a fat arrow. And in order to not get a cause error, we have to say here return, and we want to return an object with cause in it, and then cause : and then again an object with the origin key. And here we can say config.get, and here we will get our environment variable called client URL, which does not exist at the moment, but we will create it soon in our .env file. And then below cause we also have to provide some other properties here. I will just paste them in. We have to set a path for our GraphQL schema. What this will do, you will see in a bit after we have generated a schema file. And here we need to import the join from the path module, I think. Yeah. And then after the closing curly bracket here, we need to write a comma, and then we need to do inject. And here we need to inject the config service like this. And now all errors are gone. And yeah, as I said, by using this for root async here, the static method, we get access to use factory, and then we can make use of the config service and we can access our environment variables. And this is way better than just pasting in some strings here, right? That's what our .env file is for. And then another thing, in order to use our config service in all modules, we want to make it global. And we can do it by going underneath this inject and these two brackets. And here we can say config module for root. And then here we pass in an object as argument to this for root static method. And we just say is global is true. And now this will be a global module. And now this config module will be globally available. Now we are done in our app.module.ts file. We can close it. Let's go to our .env file now, and here we have to create our environment variables, and I just paste them in. So our client URL is typical localhost :3000, and then our schema path is just source, and then we name it schema.graphql. Now let's close the .env file. In order to have some products in our database, let's create a seed file in our Prisma folder here, where the schema.prisma file lives. And we name this file seed.ts. And what we do here is we create a Prisma variable, which is equal to new Prisma service. And as you can see here, I get some linting errors. And I don't know why, it's a bit buggy, I think. What you can do, if you get them as well, you can go to the eslint rc.js file here, and you just can throw out this line here. Plugin : prettier / recommended, I think. And then the errors are gone here. Next, let's create a function here called seed, and this function will loop over products. And at the moment we do not have any products here, so let's create another file here in this Prisma folder, products.ts, and here I just paste in some boilerplate products. Here they are. We can close this products.ts file. And now we can import the products in here in our seed.ts file. And now we can loop over each product. And in this for each higher order method, we get access to each product. Prod. And let's make it async, because we need to make calls to our database. And then in the function body, let's say await Prisma.product. And you see the following now. At the moment, I cannot access this product, right? I cannot. And I should be able to access something called product here, because we named our model product. And in order to get access to this product here, we need to run another command. npx prisma migrate dev, and then we can hit enter. And since we want to access our database, to store some products here in it, we need to spin up an instance of our Postgres database, and we do it via docker compose up, and we hit enter. And this works because we have this docker compose.yaml file here. And I should also tell you it's important to have Docker desktop installed, otherwise you would not be able to spin up a container. And here you can see that the container is running, and now we have access to our database. And now we can go back to the other terminal window here, and here we are asked for a name of the migration, and we just can name it init because it's our first migration. And this failed now. Maybe it was because we were not connected to the database before. So let's try it again. And now it's working. Beautiful. Now I can show you how our database table looks like by writing npx prisma studio. And here you get this UI now. And we have a model called product. We can click on it. And here we have our table. And in it, we have these columns here, and these columns we specified in our schema.prisma file, remember? And you can also see here a folder now called migrations, and in it we have another folder, and it has the name _init because we named our migration init. And here in this folder we have a migration.sql file, and here you see some SQL code. And you see that a table was created named product with these columns. And you also see that ID is a primary key by default because it's auto incremented. And yeah, cool. We are done with this. We can close the migration file, and I can also close this eslint.rc file here. And now we should be able to access this product here, this product property, and I think it works now. And here I should be able to get access to the create method, but at the moment I do not have access to it. Sometimes this is a little bit buggy, and we can fix it by going to our node modules and then to .prisma, and in it we have this client folder, and we have to click on index.d.ts file here. We just have to click on it, and then we can come back here to our seed.ts file, and now it should work, but it's not. And guys, big mistake by me, I made a mistake. Of course, we need to install something else here. Yeah, going back to our Nest.js docs under Prisma, we have to install the Prisma client, of course. That's very important. And now let's try again here. Do we get auto completion here? Product. Okay, we still do not get auto completion here. We can try to go back to our Prisma folder here in the node modules and open up the index.d.ts file again. We can close it again. Let's try it again here. And it's still not working. Okay, now what I did is I restarted Visual Studio Code, and now it seems to work. I can say Prisma dot, and now I can say product here, and then I can create a product. Now parentheses, curly brackets, and here I can provide data now as an object. And in here I just paste something in. Our product should have a name, a description, price, image, and brand. And at the moment this is undefined. So let's name this thing here in the parentheses product, like this. And in order to immediately invoke this seed function here, let's put it in parentheses like this. And then again parentheses at the end. So this will be invoked automatically. And we are done with the seed file. We can close it. Now we get another error because we need to provide at least one query for our GraphQL package. And we will fix this error now. We just can open up a new terminal window. And here let's type nest G for generate and then resource. And we name the resource product. And here we choose GraphQL Code FIrst. So we just write TypeScript and all the GraphQL stuff gets auto-generated for us. And we want to have CRUD entry points, so we have some boilerplate to work with. And this GraphQL error is gone because in our product module here, we have a product resolver, and in it we have a query. And this fixed the error. Okay, cool. Now let's start to work on our product service. At the moment we have here some useless boilerplate. First things first, let's make use of the constructor here in this product service class. And let's inject our Prisma service. Private Prisma : Prisma service, like this, via dependency injection. And now find all. We return this.prisma.product and then find many. So here we are just getting all products, and we will show them on our page, all available products. And then also let's change this find one method here. Here we just can say this.prisma.product.findUnique. And since the ID is our primary key in our products table, it is unique by default. So this is why we can use findUnique here. And now we have to provide a key where, and then again curly brackets, and in here we pass in the ID. And we need only these two methods here, so we can delete the last two ones here. And of course I didn't see it here. This create method here, we can delete it as well. And here we have another error. And yeah, of course we have this error because in our product.resolver here, we can also delete these two methods here. And we can delete this create product mutation here. Nice. And as you can see here, we have two queries here now, but they have the same name. Since the first one returns all products, let's name it products. And the name of the second query can exactly stay as it is. Product is okay. Okay, and now we are in big trouble here with all this error code here. And this is because we need to put the Prisma service in the providers array of our product module. So here we need to pass in Prisma service like this. And since we inject it here via dependency injection, yeah, we use it in our product service, we need to put it in this providers array here. And now we see that the error is gone. Everything is fine. And now we should be finally able to seed our database. But before we do this, let's go to our package.json. And here we just write down a command under scripts. And here we simply say seed and then colon and then ts node prisma/seed.ts. And we should not forget this comma here. So we basically just run our file here, right? And because this file has a function in it, which is automatically invoked because we use this parentheses at the end, our database should be seeded whenever we run npm run seed, right? So let's try it out. npm run seed, and we didn't get any error. Now let's see how our database table looks like. So we write npx prisma studio, and nice, our database is populated with 6 products. And by the way, we have many folders here in our product module, DTO and entities, and at the moment we do not really need them, but I just leave them because I'm a bit lazy. So don't worry. So don't think too much about it here, right? Why we have them, they were auto-generated. Yeah, so we simply can leave them here. Now we can also try out if we are able to get all products and a specific product. We can use our GraphQL playground. And before I use it, I have to go to main.ts. And here we see that we are using port 3000. And we want to run our client or front-end application on port 3000 as well, right? This is not so good. So let's change it to port 4000, for example. And we should be fine. I just try if I can access the playground, which already works. Okay. Here's our playground. And you see here already I have some tabs. Let's try out to get all our products. You see I make a query here. This name is not so important, but I named it products. But this name here matters. Products is important because we named our query products, remember? We provided the string products and the other query we named product. And then we need to provide some fields that we want to get back. And for now, we just get the description and the name back. And I have to apologize. We can go to the schema. We can click on this schema button here. And what you see here is we have our two queries, product and products. But we have no type for product. We just have this example field. And here I made a mistake. I told you that we do not need our entities here, right? But this was wrong. We need our product entity. So GraphQL is able to generate this product type for us. Yeah. We do not need it for Prisma and so on, because Prisma just needs the schema.prisma file here to generate the database tables. Yeah, but we need the product entity for our GraphQL package, so it is able to generate all the types for us. And this is possible because we have these two decorators here, the object type and the field decorator. And these are used to generate all the GraphQL stuff for us. So this is very important here, that we have a valid product entity. And just bear with me, I will paste in some stuff again, so I don't have to write it down. Yeah, we can delete this example field, and we will have some fields here, right? We will have an ID and so on. Yeah, that's it. And you just can copy the stuff. I will provide all the source code down below in the description, so you don't have to write it down by hand, right? This is really annoying. There's no need for it. And yeah, we can save it again. Now we can go back to our GraphQL playground and we can try it again. And what you see here now, we had a red line here, right? Indicating that there's something wrong, and now it's gone. Because GraphQL is super smart, and here we have our product type now, yeah, which is correctly typed. And now we can hit play, and as you can see, we get back all our products, yeah, but only the description and the name, because we just want to get them back here, right? Can also say ID here, and you see also auto-completion here. This is the beauty of GraphQL and TypeScript. And again, we get our IDs as well. Now we can try to get a specific product. Yeah, I named it product again. Here this name matters because our query is named product. And it expects an argument named ID. This variable name does not matter, but they have to be identical. This ID and this one here and this one here down below, they all have to be identical. Yeah, so we need to have 3 times ID here. And then under query variables, I can provide, for example, 3. So we just should be able to get one product with the ID of 3. And I cannot prove it to you that this is a product with the ID of 3, because we do not have a ID field here. But what I can do is I just can put the ID field here, so the ID will be returned. Let's try again. And here you'll see the proof. It's a product with the ID of 3. Beautiful. Now that we got our product module working, let's work on our payment module so that a customer will be able to pay his ordered products by credit card, for example. This is pretty straightforward. Now that we got our product module running, now let's start to work on our payment module. And this will be the last module we will be creating for our backend. And yeah, then we should be done and we can start to work on our front end. First things first, let's create another resource, NestJS resource, and we name it payment. Again, we can say GraphQL Code FIrst and CRUD entry points, yes. Now we need to install another dependency. We need to install Stripe so that customers will be able to pay their ordered products. And we simply type npm i Stripe. Now we can go to our payment module, but first of all, let's close this folder here, this product folder, and go to payment. And then in our payment.service file here, and here we basically can delete all the stuff And then we can make use of the constructor again here. In the parentheses, let's create a config service. Config service. And also a Prisma service. Then also let's create a private class property here. Private stripe of type stripe. And of course we need to import stripe. And now in our constructor body here, we can say this.stripe is equal to new stripe. And then we say this.config service .get and then stripe underscore private. And then also we need to provide another argument here in an object, API version. And here we can simply use this here. I think this is the most updated version of the API. And depending on what API version you use, Stripe might behave differently. So yeah, you just can use this version here and you should be fine. Or here we get an error now. Maybe we just grab this thing here. Let's try it out. Yeah, maybe you grab this version here. This is the newest API version, so you should be fine. Okay, now we can create a method here. Okay, now you can create a method here. Create checkout session. And this method expects an argument named items. And items is an array of objects with an ID, which is of type number, and a quantity, which is of type number as well. And then we have to provide angle brackets here, because items is an array of objects with an ID and a quantity. And how this works is, from our front end, we just will send an array of items containing just the ID of the item we want to buy and the quantity. But of course, this is not sufficient. In order to work with Stripe, right, we need a price, for example, we need a product name as well, and a unit amount and so on, and the currency we need. And yeah, why we need it, you will see soon. So from the front end, we just get the ID and the quantity of the products we want to order. And what we can do next is we can say const stored items is equal to items.map. And then here we get access to each item. And let's make it async. So we can perform an async operation for each item here. And here we are getting the stored item from our database by saying stored item is equal to await this Prisma product. And now we make use of find unique. Since our ID is unique by default, right? Because it's auto-incremented. Here again, we have to provide curly brackets and then where. And then the ID with the value of item.id. So while this item just has an ID and a quantity, this item here now has all the properties, name, description, price, quantity, and so on. And what we want to achieve by using this higher order array method map here is we want to return a new array. And in order to return a new array, we must return something here in this map body here. And here we say return. We return an object here with a price underscore data key and then curly brackets. And this is important that it's named price underscore data because this is for Stripe. Otherwise this would not work. And in here we have a currency property, currency, and we simply say our currency is USD. Then below currency, let's create another property named product data. And we open up curly brackets again. And here we can provide some product data. For example, the name. stored item dot name. And I think we could also do the description maybe. But yeah, the name is enough, I would say. Then after this yellow closing curly bracket, let's make a comma. And then we have to provide the unit underscore amount colon. And here we say stored item dot price times 100. And here we have to multiply by 100 because the unit amount is in cents. Product prices are not in cents, right? I can show it to you. In the products.ts file here, you see that they are not in cents, right? And this is why we have to multiply it by 100 because Stripe wants it so. All right, and last but not least, after this closing curly bracket of the price data here, we have to provide the quantity. Quantity. And this is item.quantity, like this. And now, after our map method here has been closed down below, we can create another variable, const session, which is equal to await this stripe dot checkout dot sessions dot create. And here we have to provide a few properties again. The mode is payment. There are also other modes such as subscription, for example. And then also we have to provide a success URL and a cancel URL. And these are the URLs we will be redirected to, after payment, after it was successfully done or after it has been cancelled, right? Then we get redirected to these pages. And you will see how we will be doing it. It's pretty straightforward. It's nothing complicated. And now I want to show you something here, which took me a bit of time to figure out. Here you see we get an error, line items. And it says something, that stored items is a promise here, although we awaited it here, right? Nevertheless, stored items here, as you can see, is not an array of actual items, but it is a promise still. And how we can fix it is by saying here, in front of items.map, we say await promise.all. And then we have to wrap the whole thing in parentheses here until this yellow closing parentheses here. And now the error is gone because stored items is not a promise, but it's an actual array of stored items, right? And now you might wonder what this mysterious session is. It's nothing too complicated. It's pretty straightforward. You will see in a bit how we can use this session here. First, we have to return something here. We have to return the URL, which has the value of session.url. So we are returning a URL here, and this is very important. This URL leads us to Stripe checkout, where we can provide our card details and so on, and where we also see the price of the ordered product. And this is possible because remember, we have these stored items here, and they have all this useful data here, right? Whereas these items here just have the ID and the quantity. The stored items here have all the important data that Stripe needs to calculate total price of the order, right? And now we should be done with our payment service. We can close a few windows here. We can close them all. Why not? And now let's go to our payment resolver here. And here we have all this boilerplate. We can almost delete everything, but we just can leave the first mutation here. And here we return this .payment service create checkout session. And now let's create two DTOs. in our payment module. One DTO we name create session dot input dot ts, and here I paste something in. Yeah, here we use input type and field as decorators, because here we expect some input from the client. Otherwise, if we want to have a response, then we have to provide an object type decorator here. Since we are expecting some input from the client, yeah, we have to use this input type decorator. But if we want to specify a return type here of this mutation, then it's always the object type. All right. So far, so good. Let's create another DTO in our payment module here under DTO, and we name it create session.response.ts. And as I said, here we use the object type, and we have just one field, the URL, which is a string. So now we can correctly type our mutation here. We can use our create session response DTO, create session response DTO. Now we can correctly type our mutation. Here as return type, we can use our create session response DTO. And then here as input, we can use our create session input. And here, I don't know why I named it DTO. You can name it whatever you want. Yeah, so it's not so important here. And now we have this args decorator here because we expect some input from the client. And here we can delete this string and we can provide an object. So curly brackets. Then we can say name. The name of the argument should be items. Yeah, we simply name it items. We expect input with the name of items. And here we need to provide a type. And as type, we say we have a function here that returns something. And it returns an array of create session input. And this is a bit strange, right? Why we have to write it like this? Yeah, the type is a function that returns something here, but this is what it's expected by GraphQL here. You see, we have to provide a function that returns something here. And in our case, we return this thing here. So an array of objects with an ID and a quantity. And also the strange thing here is we have to write it like this, yeah, in angle brackets. But then here we have to write it like this, create session input, and then after create session input, we have to provide the angle brackets like this. Yeah, this is a bit strange, but this is how it works, right? And now we are done with our resolver here. We can close it. And now I need to tell you something important. Let's go back to our payment service here. You see we have this Stripe private environment variable here, right? And you might wonder where you get it from. You get it from Stripe. And how this works, you have to go to Stripe. You have to sign up. You have to provide your credit card details, but don't worry, Stripe is for free, you don't have to pay. And then you have to enable the test mode here. And then you get access to two API keys. One is public and the other one is private. And then you just take the private key from your Stripe dashboard here and you paste it in your .env file here. I just copy it from payment service like this. And then you paste in your private key. And this is needed to access your Stripe account and so on. And yeah, it takes some time because Stripe wants to know a lot of stuff like your address and then your credit card details. But yeah, it's just like 5 minutes or so, maybe even less, and then you are good to go. And I'm sorry, my Stripe is in German, so it's hard for you to understand, but it's pretty straightforward and they have good documentation. So you should be able to figure it out yourself, how to sign up in Stripe. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. I will try my best to answer them, and I hopefully can help you a bit if you struggle with Stripe. Alright, I pasted in my Stripe private API key, and now we have to fix some big errors here. So it's complaining about some missing dependencies, I think. Let's go to the payment module, and in here we need to pass in the config service, I think, like this. And is something else? Yeah, there's something else. Of course, we need to pass in our Prisma service. And we are fine now. Now we are able to test our application. Let's see if we can buy some products. So let's head back to our playground. In our schema, we should see that we have one mutation here. And we named it create payment. But I think let's give it another name because I don't like this name. Let's actually name it. We go back to our payment.resolver here. Let's name it create checkout session, yeah, because this is a better fitting name, I would say, because this is here also named create checkout session, and this is a good convention to keep. And now we go back to our playground, and the name has been changed here. And we expect to get back an URL. And now we have to provide the items we want to buy. So down below here again, we can provide them. Here we have an array, and we have to provide the ID and the quantity always, right? For every item we want to purchase. And we buy 2 items with the ID of 1 and 3 items with the ID of 3. Let's hit play and let's see what this URL actually is. I just copy it. I paste it in my browser and look where we are. We are at checkout.stripe.com. Here you see the total. And then also you see our 2 products here. And you see the amount down below. But I have to apologize. All the stuff here is in German. I should have changed it in the option maybe so that it is in English. But I think you can still understand it, right? You see here we have the $sign. We have the name of the product and the amount. And we have this because if we go back to our payment service, yeah, you remember we created this checkout session here. And here we provided the currency of US dollar. And as product data, we just provided the name. And then yeah, also the amount and the quantity. So this is how Stripe was able to figure out what we have here, and it was to figure out what the price is. And here you see this name here above. Just ignore it. This is just my old test account here. So this is where the name comes from. But you should provide a useful name here. Yeah, for example, the name of your online shop. But this was just for testing Python Flask application, so I named it this way, and now I use it for the online shop here. So yeah, just don't get confused by this name here. And now that we have all the correct data here, we can test it. Here is card number, we just can say for two, and this 4 times. And then we can provide any CVC here, but it must be a number, and any date here as well. Any name here. Now we can hit pay, and we also need to provide an email here. Now let's hit the pay button. And what you also see, we are redirected to a success page, but this page does not exist at the moment because we do not have our Nextjs front end. but we will fix it in the future. Now we can go to our Stripe dashboard, and under payment, we can see our payment here. It was successful. We can click on it. We see our 2 items here, right? Our 2 different items. We see the amount here and the total. And we also see that we have a customer here with the email of John Doe 69, right? And so on. Yeah, and we are done with our backend.